All right, now the doctor strike enters day 6 today with 8 other organizations actually joining in and saying we are going to be supporting the doctors when it comes to this particular strike. Mediations attempts have actually not bore any fruits. That's the conversation we are having tonight here on The Bottom Line. Later on, I'll be speaking to the Deputy National Chair of KMPDU, Dennis Mundia. Don't go too far, or rather engage us on our socials at Amoy Brian, that is on X, at Lookuptv. The hashtag we're using tonight is The Bottom Line KE. Do tell us where you are watching us from, and also the stories your comments or the stories you're running today, and we'll be sampling some of it as we continue with the program tonight. Also, your take on the doctor strike. What should be done? What should be done, and who should actually given first? Is it the government or the doctors? Our sign language interpreter tonight is Josephine Oko. This are the top stories tonight. On The Bottom Line tonight, Kenyans to pay mandatory housing levy from end of the month as President William Ruto signs into law the controversial affordable housing bill.
We will be merciless on everyone. Motorists, drivers.
Also tonight, Interior CS Kithure Kindiki announces a nationwide crackdown to curb rising accident fatalities.
The Ministry of Education is setting up school heads and managers for ridicule, failure, and blame.
And azimio Member of Parliament Slum Education CS Ezekiel Mashogu as they demand release of capitation funds owed to schools. Tonight, we look at the ongoing doctor strike with KMPDU Deputy Chairman David Mundia. All right, our sign language interpreter tonight is Josephine Oko. Let's begin with top story tonight. President William Ruto has signed into law the Affordable Housing Bill 2023, paving the way for the reinstatement of housing levy deductions from this month. Now, the signing ceremony was conducted in State House, Nairobi, and attended by key government officials. State House, Nairobi, the signature to make the housing levy is appended, making it the Housing Act. This comes after months of push and pull from the judiciary to the legislature to the executive and back to the people. The Affordable Housing Bill is now law. The president's signature signals the return of housing levy deductions beginning in April as the government puts measures in place to ensure everything is okay.
Pays rent at 3,000 to pay 3,000 and own a home in Kenya. It will give a chance to a border guy and every hustler in Kenya who today lives in a shack that has no water, that has no electricity, that has no access, that has no sanitation. It's going to dignify their lives, and they too, like the rest of society, can own.
Under the new law, Kenyans in the informal sector and others not salaried will pay 1.5% of their monthly gross earnings to fund the Kenya Kwanza government's housing project.
In this affordable housing program, there is a chance for every Kenyan. Those who want bigger houses will have an opportunity to get it. Those who want affordable houses will have an opportunity to get it. And those who want social houses will have an opportunity to get it.
Kenyans were worried ya kwamba wabwanyenye wataweza kununua hiyo nyumba zote wakuwe zao alafu waweze kuziuza back into the market kwa bei ambayo iko juu kwa sababu iko affordable. Na kwa hivyo tukaongezea kipengele kingine ya kusema 1K ya repin, one house. Kwa hivyo utaweza kuchukua zaidi ya nyumba moja.
The new legislation ropes in workers in the informal sector for the regulations to be in agreement with the High Court ruling that rendered it unconstitutional last year. The legislation received approval from both the Senate and the National Assembly last week and now includes amendments that involve the participation of county governments. Under the new provisions proposed by the Senate, governors will establish county liaison committees tasked with overseeing the implementation of the affordable housing program. Brian Amoy, Lookuptv, Nairobi. Away from that, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has ordered an immediate crackdown targeting all unroadworthy vehicles, rogue drivers and riders. Now speaking as he commissioned the Kisumu West Sub-County headquarters, Kindiki noted that the operation will be in collaboration between the Interior Ministry and Transport Ministry. All right, let's continue. The story will be coming your way in just a short while. Azimio MPs have slammed Education CS Ezekiel Meshogu over delay in release of school capitation funds. The leaders have demanded the immediate release of the money owed to schools, decrying that the government is sabotaging education. Stanley Lugaria now reports.
You are ready?
Led by Ugunja lawmaker Opeyo Wandai, the MPs claimed the utterances by the Ministry of Education on Monday in response to delay in allocation and disbursement of education funds as a delay tactics by the ministry, a move that continues to hinder running of activities in across government learning institutions.
We have lost count of the numerous times such promises have been made since the Kenya Kwanza regime took over. This is turning out to be a game of lies, managing the public on the one hand, while setting up school heads for failure, which the ministry has now perfected. This is testament enough to the lack of commitment by the government to the future of this country's school-going children. Funds are yet to be remitted to schools for Form 1 students in secondary schools, whose first term is set to come to an end in a matter of weeks, in fact 2 weeks.
The MPs have faulted the government, revealing that the ministry is buying more time to endure a rage of the education sector stakeholders in the country. The lawmakers have attacked the government for not having a specific reason for the financial delay and want the entire process to be fast-tracked.
Schools are contemplating closing school earlier than scheduled and doing away with end-of-term tests because they can no longer afford basics like stationery. Some school administrators admit that they are forced to play hide and seek with school suppliers who are constantly and rightfully so demanding payments from these schools. In other cases, schools have resorted to slashing budget for extracurricular activities. It is as pathetic as it is chaotic. We had the PS lament that this capitation money is not meant for feeding children or pupils. Well, he must be made to understand that there's a ripple effect. When you don't release capitation money, it affects every other school program. Okay? Directly or indirectly. In a bid to make ends meet, some schools have resorted to either increasing boarding fees, food rationing, or changing the students' menu altogether to make ends meet.
The leaders have also asked the government to address the issue of funds delay in the education sector by responding to the needs of the sector regularly, while calling on President Ruto and their team to ensure the matter is handled with due respect. Stanley Lugaria, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
All right, doctors have maintained that the national strike is on until their demands are met. Now, while appearing before the Public Petition Committee regarding the posting of the medical interns, the doctors challenged the SRC's move to have the intern's salary reduced by 91%.
Today marks the 6th day after doctors commenced a national strike. In one voice, they have vowed to continue downing their tools until the demands are met. Speaking after appearing before the Public Petition Committee on posting medical interns, the doctors have challenged SRS move to have the intern salary reduced by 91%.
Being offered in Kenya National Hospital, now the doctors have left. In the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, also the doctors have left. But the biggest concern that we had in this meeting is that as the meeting was progressing, we had in our possession a circular that is purported to come from the SRC that is reducing the salaries of our medical interns by 91%. We are also perturbed to realize that SRC is in the process to reduce salary of doctors, that is the call allowance, across the entire country. And therefore we are seeing that we may be in this strike for long.
Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union Secretary General Daji Otela claims to have submitted a proposed bill last week in Parliament addressing their concerns. Top among the issues, posting of medical interns.
Be in this strike for long. The government has been in it for 7 years, but we may be in it for a very long time until the government realizes that there's need to respect the negotiated collective bargaining agreement, and also there's need to sign the new agreement. We also came to the Parliament to have a discussion because we had delivered a petition last week on 4th of March regarding the issues pertaining to the CBA, and I think we have been given enough time to go and do our submission.
The doctors in the next 2 days are threatening to withdraw primary services in all national hospitals, adding that a national strike will be held this Friday in Nairobi, incorporating all doctors across the country.
I am more certain that in the next 1 or 2 days, realize that even they will not be able to do emergencies, both in Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, both in the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospitals and Kenyatta National Hospital. Because we realize the government is in contempt of court. Kenyatta himself were in contempt of the courts. That on Friday this week, all the doctors across the country will assemble in Nairobi and will be having a very big demonstration, a mother of all demonstration, to demonstrate, to illustrate to the government that we are not happy and we will not be happy for anything rather than the outcomes of the issues that we raised in our strike notice.
Mavin Getembe, Lookuptv.
All right, that is the story that will be forming the basis of our conversation tonight here on The Bottom Line. So don't go too far. We'll be having that conversation later on. But let's continue with the news tonight. Police officers in Kiambu have arrested 140 people in a crackdown on illicit brew. Among them are 14 people who were smoking the outlawed shisha, as Mati Masharia now reports.
In efforts to curb the proliferation of illicit alcohol and unlicensed entertainment joints in Kiambu County, Senior Principal Chief George Kibugi led a raid on the newly established entertainment venue known as Quikin in Kiambu Town. Following a tip-off from area residents, upon arrival, authorities found customers drunk with others smoking the outlawed shisha.
Tuweza kupata ujumbe kutoka kwa informa wetu mbalimbali within Kiambu na wakatujulisha kwamba hii klabu kipi ambapo kimefunguliwa hapa Kiambu Town kinachoitwa Quikin. Masaa ya usiku kabisa ndio wanaanza kuwauzia vijana wale wanaokunywa pale hiyo madawa kulevya inayoitwa shisha.
Confirming the arrest of over 140 individuals, Chief Kibugi disclosed that law enforcement confiscated the shisha paraphernalia along with other illicit substances found on the premises.
Tuweza kushika watu zaidi ya 145 wakiwa na makosa mbalimbali. Either wale wanakunywa pombe katika vilabu ambazo zinauza masaa mabaya, vilabu pia ambazo zinauza pombe masaa ambayo hayaambatani na sheria kulingana na license waliopewa.
The suspect, upon appearing before the Kiambu Law Court, admitted the charges brought against them, expressing remorse and pledging to refrain from such activities in the future. As a result, they were released on a cash bill of 5,000 Kenya shillings each. Chief Kibugi also issued a stern warning to entertainment establishments operating outside the bounds of the law, emphasizing the potential revocation of licenses by the liquor licensing boards, and affirmed that the crackdown would persist unabated, signaling a firm commitment to maintaining law and order in the region.
Tunangojea labda koti inaweza amua labda tufunge ama tuweze kuongea na watu wa rika licensing tuone kama wanaweza vutilia mbali license yako, maana sasa ni ya pombe wamepewa license ya kuuza kama club pombe, lakini sasa maneno ya shisha hakuna, na shisha tumekuja kutambua kwamba kulingana na sheria haipaswi kuuzwa, ni manake ni madawa baadhi ya yale mabaya kulevya na yataharibu vijana wetu.
Martin Masharia, Look Up TV.
All right, that story by Martin Masharia takes us to our first break here on the Bottom Line KE. We will be back in just a short while to give you more news that have been happening during the day, and also later on getting into a conversation tonight on the doctor strike standoff. So continue engaging us on our socials at Lookuptv, that is on Facebook and on YouTube where we are live. We do welcome your feedback. Tell us exactly what you think about this particular strike that has now entered day 6, and as just like you had in our story earlier, on Friday it will be the mega of all strikes. All right, and also just your feedback as far as the stories you're running today are concerned. We'll be back in a few.
Open University of Kenya, which was chartered on the 3rd of August 2023, aims to revolutionize higher education by breaking down barriers such as cost, previous exam grades, and geographical location through online open learning at the comfort of your home, job, etc., thus ensuring accessibility to education for all members of the society. In a nutshell, Open University of Kenya leverages technology to deliver education.
Open University has brought a new door in the Kenya education system where learners are able to access education in a flexible, affordable, and all-inclusive.
Intakes ongoing for May and September. For more information, call us on 0202000211 or 0202000212 or email us at info@ouk.ac.ke. Open University of Kenya, an innovative university for inclusive prosperity. Buy Credo Chap across all networks bila stress. Go to M-Pesa paybill number 33000 na uweke account number yako na namba ya simu that you want to recharge. It's quick, convenient, and hassle-free. In just a few clicks, buy airtime. M-Pesa paybill 33000. Account your number to stay topped up and connected anytime, anywhere. Chap.
Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali na Manjoro. Kumbuka hapa ndipo unajifunza mambo mengi kuhusu ukulima. Kilimo ni uti wa mgongo wa nchi, na ukiwa na Njoro unajifunza. Kumbuka, angalia mwenyewe. Tunakuambia ukitaka kujua tips za ukulima, ungana na sisi kwenye Lookuptv. Every Sunday unatukuta pale saa 10, tunakuonesha kuhusu ukulima. Ukulima wa mimea, ukulima wa ng'ombe, ukulima wa kuku, ukulima wa mbuzi na yote ambayo yanahusiana na ukulima. Kumbuka nini? Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali.
Tere, mambo ni mawili: kufikisha, kumwaga na kurudi. Kulala ni mwaka mpya.
Muka we mse. Nini mbaya? Wewe kwani vile dereva anaendesha gari vibaya, lazima tususe. Anaendesha gari na kwa simu the whole time hata kalipa na bara. Tusimame. Wewe dereva wewe. Mwaka iliyopita peke yake watu zaidi ya 3000 walipoteza maisha yao barabarani kwa sababu ya tabia kama hizo. Hautatuangamiza tukiona.
Naomba msamaha, tutapeleka vizuri.
Si wameomba msamaha. Sasa tuende tusafiri kwa mwendo wa aste.
Dere Smart hufikisha abiria salama. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us here on the Bottom Line KE. Let's continue with the news tonight. Now, more than 200 IDP families settled by the government on the controversial Donga farm in Subukia, Nakuru, want the state to expedite subdivision of the land to enable them start farming and build homes. As Ebi Kadenyi now reports, the families have raised concern about a plan by cartels to evict them.
14 years ago, when the country was in disarray following the 2007-2008 post-election violence, they were displaced from different regions and relocated to Donga Farm in Subukia, Nakuru County, assured of their well-being by the government. The joy was, however, short-lived, as they in fear of business tycoons who are allegedly scheming to lease their farm. Lilian Ombui, a resident of Donga, has raised concern over the government's failure to protect IDPs from unscrupulous people who seek to evict them and establish a vanity project on it.
Mchezi tuko naye mingi sana, na sio mimi peke yangu, hata mama hakuna mwenye hana shida, hana kilio. Hatuna makazi, hata saa hii shamba unaona imekaa tu hivi. Ukienda kuguza kidogo, ng'ombe zinakuja zinavamia. Ukienda kuguza kidogo, shamba ni ya serikali, si yenu, mtarudi mahali mlitoka.
70-year-old John Muthigani has called his worn-out tent a home since 2010. He says he had hoped for a new beginning when the government resettled them on the farm, but his hope was crushed after the government failed to honor its word.
Na tangu tukuje hapa tuna shinda mingi juu ya shinda. Kwa vile tuliletwa hapa, tulikuwa tumeletwa hapa tugawiwe, lakini shamba haikugawa. Tukaendelea kukaa, hata dakika hii tuko bado gawiwa. Nafikiri mazingara ile tunaye ni shinda juu ya shinda.
The IDPS spokesperson Moses Masharia noted that more than 700 residents are currently huddling on a 2-acre section of the land and are not allowed to build health centers, places of worship and schools. Masharia further said that for the last 9 years, the quest for justice for the families has been met with frustration from local and national leadership.
Sasa imefika wakati tumetoka juzi, tumejua pesa imeallocatiwa na mambo yamesimama kwa minister. Tunauliza minister anakataa na kwa nini kukubali shamba ikuje ikatwe, na serikali imeshainunua shamba na ikatununulia na ikatutoa kwa kambi ikatuleta hapa, ikawa ni shamba yetu. Sasa tunasema tuko kwa shamba yetu, hata tu ile shida ni kukuja kugawiwa, tupatiwe kila mtu sehemu yake.
Bikadenyi, Lookuptv.
All right, thank you, Ebi Kadenyi, for that particular report. Now, as water shortage continues to be a major challenge in West Pokot, Masol Secondary School has been a blessing to area residents as it supplies clean water to the region. Now, though happy to get a reprieve, area leaders have called on the government to drill more boreholes and ensure local success clean water.
This is Masowel Secondary School, Pokot County. A school that has greatly benefited the residents of this county, not only in the educational level, but also in the distribution of fresh water to the residents. Chebet Mugo, the chair of Masol Secondary School, narrates that despite the challenges such as lack of security, FGM, and harsh weather condition, the school has managed to emerge the best in the region in the KCSE national examination.
To say Masol is a devolution story. Without devolution, I do not think that education would have come to this ward. In fact, most of the girls who are getting married, early marriages is prevalent in this community, and then the boys are going to cattle rustling or just being herders. So hii shule imekuja imeleta maneno ya masomo, and without education there cannot be an equalizer. So I thank devolution for bringing Masol Secondary School to Masol Ward.
Principal teacher Benjamin Swayet has called on the county and the national government to intervene and solve the chronic water problem that has been affecting the area. According to Swayet, Masol Secondary School is the only area in the entire village supplying fresh water.
Vile tunaona hapa majirani, mashule jirani ya msingi wako na changamoto sana kwa sababu tunatumia borehole ya shule, na hivyo basi tunaona ya kwamba tunaanza kuona changamoto ya maji kwa vile tunatumia pia na community, na ningeomba siku ya leo ya kwamba kwa hisani pamoja na gavana wetu aweze kutusaidia kutuchimbia borehole nyingine tupate maji ya kutosha, ili pia tuendelee tuwe na maendeleo kwa shule yetu.
Charles, Lookuptv.
The Public Sector Accounting Standards Board has warned that pending bills pose a major threat to the economy and the national with national and county governments owing. Let me just take that again. The Public Sector Accounting Standards Board has warned that pending bills pose a major threat to the economy with the national and county governments owing billions in unpaid bills. Now, the board noted that hundreds of traders had been blacklisted by banks for failing to service their loans. Now, the board has also stated that small and medium enterprises were the most affected.
The pending bill said in the national and county government is threatening to significantly slow down economic development. The Public Sector Accounting Board CEO Georgina Muchari has indicated that pending bills have affected many businesses, adding that the delays in releasing payments to public contractors have resulted to non-performing loans in the banking system.
The issue of pending bills is an issue that is known to everybody in this country. And of course, we all know the effects it has on businesses, because if these, especially small and medium-sized entities, are not paid in time, then it means that some of them are even being blacklisted by the banks to even get more loans to fund their businesses.
Addressing the press in Sawela Lodge, Naivasha, during the ongoing financial sensitization for county officials on the shift from cash to accrual financial system, Georgina indicated that last week the cabinet approved the transition from cash basis to accrual accounting, targeting all government agencies.
But in the new accrual-based system, when they have invoiced me for a tax or maybe a penalty or a levy that I'm supposed to pay, then they should record that in the books of accounts.
Director of the board, Mary Kimanzi, say that transition to accrual accounting called for a shift from the current reporting structure as the new reporting framework took shape, adding that all public entities reporting under cash basis of the accounting will undergo a radical shift in their financial reporting, necessitating the need to deal with the current financial reporting structure.
We all know counties and many other government entities have been reporting on the basis of cash. But there's accrual accounting which provides for more disclosures in financial reporting.
Shamila Baraza, Lookuptv.
Now, residents of Langas Estate in Eldoret are calling on authorities to speed up investigations after more than 30 children were reported missing since the year began. Now, the children aged between 1 and 9 years are said to have been kidnapped by unknown people, as Majid Hussein now reports.
What was once a safe haven for children growing up now proves otherwise. Parents in Langas area of Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, now living in acute fear as the number of missing children soars to 30 in just 1 year. Parents now blaming the police for their failure to tackle disappearance cases of their children. They are now calling on the government to address the catastrophe in the region.
Nilizunguka sana nikitafuta mtoto, nilizunguka nikikimbia huku na huku. By saa 4:45 nikakimbia mpaka police post. Nikawaambia mambo na mtoto, wakaniandikia obi nikarudi nayo. Nikakaa kidogo tena nikarudi. Nimekuwa nikirudi post.
My child went lost on 4th of March this year. I don't know where she went, but I reported to police station nearest Langas. But nilipoenda huko kwa police station, nikapata askari wenye walikuwa kwa obi. Wakanielezea ya kwamba mtoto alipotea ukiwa wapi. Nikawaelezea nilienda kibarua. Wakaniambia mama, hatushughuliki na hiyo shughuli sai.
However, the police have now called on residents to exercise patience as they work around the clock to run investigation and provide ample security.
Wakati huu siwezi kuwa na uhakika kwa sababu by end of last week report ambao tulikuwa na ilikuwa report moja ambao tulikuwa tunafuatilia. Jana wakati wanalangas walisikia tunakuja hapa kwa baraza, jana by jioni ilikuwa watoto 4. Last boy ilifika hadi 15. Tukiwa hapa umesikia sasa imeruka hadi 31. Inamaanisha tukiwaita tena waulizwe labda itagonga milioni. So tutadeal tu na numbers zenye tuko nayo kwa obi kwa station.
Abdimajid Hussein, Lookuptv.
Now, the Deputy Director General of Trade Promotion Council of India, Sadis Das, now says there is an opportunity for investors in Kenya and India for business people in both countries. Now, speaking to Lookuptv during the Source India East Africa Trade Fair in Nairobi, Sandeeps called on investors to grasp the opportunity and expand their market.
The Kenya-India business partnership is taking new heights after the Source India organized a two-day event in Nairobi, bringing stakeholders and investors from India to showcase their products. The event held in Nairobi saw different products displayed with the aim of inviting investors. The Deputy Director General of the Trade Promotion Council of India, Sadis Das, now says the business environment for Kenya is favorable for foreign investors.
And then again after 6 years we are back to Kenya with the same Source India brand, and we are happy to be. However, over the years the focus has changed from exporting Indian products here to as well as doing a lot of partnership, joint venture, collaboration and investment thing in Kenya and other East African partners, because Indian businesses now see a long-term opportunity in this part of the world, and particularly Kenya being a very stable politically and overall environment in terms of business, which is very conducive. This makes Kenya very, interesting for most of the Indian manufacturers and suppliers. Yeah.
So what kind of trade between Kenya and India has been going on for a while, with commitment from both nations to collaborate more.
And that India and Kenya at the G2G level, India has now given market access for Kenyan avocados to Indian market recently. So these things are happening. See, both of the countries, this relationship is based on a mutual trust for years, for decades now. And even if you see, there's a huge Indian diaspora who is present in Kenya. And they are also in the many businesses. Okay. So, see, the trust is there. Probably you have
some key sectors which have high potential for East Africa, India trade, include agribusiness. We all know actually that in East Africa, most of the countries are actually food insecure. I happen to have traveled to India back, I think 2008, 2009 there, and we were amazed at how India is able to feed its 1.4 billion people and have a surplus to export.
Majid Hussein, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
All right, let's get sporty tonight. Reigning African Rally champion Karan Patel is confident of competing with the big boys in the 2024 Safari Rally, expected to start on March 28th to 31st in Naivasha. Now, the KCB racing team driver and his navigator to Sifhan will compete Sakoda Febia R5 under the Kenya National Rally Championship category in the main WRC Safari Rally category. Toyota Gazoo racing team led by Kyle Rovanpera and Takamoto Katsusa are expected to headline. Ot Tanak and Thierry Neuville are other big names who have confirmed their participation. However, reigning champion Sebastian Oje will be missing in action.
As far as preparation goes, we've probably done our best, and that's what matters. So then the next part is up to me when we're behind the wheel in the actual rally, for me to do my best, because the teams will have done their best in preparing for the race. Yeah. Thankfully and very gratefully, we have now engaged with KCB for the second year in a row. We were the KCB drivers last year in the WRC. We were also the KCB bank drivers for the Africa Rally Championship, which we won last year. and I think that has helped them get some confidence in us. At the same time, we are very happy with working with them, and I think the partnership is quite beneficial mutually. Well, the game plan would be definitely still to attack as it was last year, but last year we suffered a few hiccups with regards to broken brake pipe, failed power steering, and then ultimately a damaged clutch due to the fesh. So yes, the Skoda I think is obviously is a different car. It's something I'm still getting used to in terms of its character and the way to drive it.
Now, Harambee Stars held their training session today at Utalii grounds ahead of the upcoming four-nation tournament in Lilongwe, Malawi. Now, the Engine Firat side will use the tournament to check their readiness to tackle Ivory Coast in June for the 2026 World Cup qualifiers.
Side, forward back, even advance, forward back. I need it. Back.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us here. It is time for that conversation tonight on the Bottom Line KE. We're talking about doctor strike standoff, and joining me for this conversation is the Deputy National Chair of KMPDU. Thank you so much for making time for this conversation.
Thank you.
All right, so David, let me start with this one. We just played a story about there being a mega strike on Friday this week. When we say a mega strike, but look, from what we've seen so far for the past 6 days, what exactly are we talking about?
Well, it's an unfortunate position whereby all the healthcare workers, from the doctors, the pharmacists, the dentists, the public health officers, the nurses, the clinical officers, the nutritionists, the physiotherapists, all of them, they have plenty of grievances. Issues that have been long-standing for years, and no one is ready to come out and address them.
Okay.
So today we're in Parliament on similar discussions that this person's welfare issues need to be addressed. The Parliament is saying they will look into them. But as the matters are going, nothing is yet clear. And that's why we're suggesting or proposing that coming the first few days towards Friday, there is likelihood of us holding a mega strike in the nation. It's the unfortunate bit that we don't want to go to there.
All right. But from the looks of things, it's like we are heading to that particular direction.
Yes, it does look like so, because it seems like all the players who have been cited by the courts to come into the negotiations, they are playing all underhanded games, whereby they're not clear in what they're proposing to the teams. And when we detect or we sense that persons are not acting in good faith, then negotiations will fail, we'll have a stalemate, and that means the strike will prolong. We don't want the strike to prolong. By today, we should have actually been concluding.
Then why have we not concluded? Because you say today we were in the National Assembly. You are in Parliament. I suppose these are some of the talks that you're actually engaging to see whether you can actually call off the strike. Today you say you should have concluded the strike, but we haven't done that. Why is that the case?
It is possible for us to conclude, but today we realize there's a lot of games. As of yesterday, we were called. We were to get time to deliberate on the issues. We did not agree, but the minister went on TV yesterday and suggested that we had concluded, we had agreed. Today comes, we have new information coming to us that whatever even she was suggesting yesterday, it was an unilateral act of the CS Health meeting on the sidelines with the chairman SRC, deciding by the two persons to come up with a policy by themselves. There is no such thing that can happen in the country whereby two persons decide the welfare of thousands of workers. It cannot happen.
What was the agreement yesterday when we met the minister, the CS for Health?
Well, it was a proposal that she's telling us of things that she's supposed to do, the things that we had already agreed upon years ago. 7 years ago, there was a CBA. And even before the CBA, many years, probably all the way back to 1994, their way interns were always posted by the government. So she knows that. That's a function of the ministry. So she cannot come yesterday and tell us, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. Well, you're supposed to have done it 9 months ago. Now, those persons have remained out of work. Another batch is coming out in the next 2 months. They need to be posted. So she keeps on accumulating persons without the requisite licensure. And that means she's affecting how the flow of persons into the profession happens, which is not proper for a ministry that knows Kenya has a big shortage. We have about 55,000 doctors shortage in the country. Yet we're still dilly-dallying with the handful that we have. And probably just frustrating them to the point whereby they don't even want to practice in the country. So we want doctors, but the country is not creating smooth ground for these persons to practice. Now, these persons, because they don't have licensure, they cannot start seeing patients. So the aspects of them just getting into the system to get a license for them to start seeing patients and making an income for themselves is what is being denied. It's like an infringement of what the Constitution aspires yourself as a young man or a young woman to start practicing your trade. But the government has stood between you and your profession. So years are passing by as you watch your skills just gather rust. Okay. It's not proper.
Let me come to what was the results of, yes, you said there's new information that came today, but also what was the results of the meeting that you had today? I suppose that you're supposed to have met the Ministry of Labour. Did that happen?
So yesterday she said, I will post interns by 1st of April. That was her proposal. She told us that in January last year. She told us that in January this year. She told us that in February. She told us that in March. And now she's telling again in April. So she's telling too many stories now that her credibility has gone out of the window. We don't believe her anymore. And if she was to be a person of good intent, she should have come with those papers, the letters of posting, and told us, I'm even posting now because I'm late and I'm sorry and I'm apologizing for it.
Okay. Well, from where you sit, what do you think is the reason as to why interns are not being posted?
The issue of games of there's an allocation, budgetary allocation, but we have seen it looks like it's a personal agenda, not a national agenda, a personal agenda to review salaries of doctors, because herself and a group of other persons feel that doctors in this particular cadre, they're earning too much. The much that they're earning is wages that were negotiated and agreed upon by the ministers that came before her. And parties were happy and they settled, they signed, and they took these documents to court. Now you cannot come later, 7 years, and start saying, personally, I feel aggrieved by whatever the previous ministers agreed upon. And I want to go back and undo that. You cannot undo gains that have made people prosper where they are to take them back to things that had happened years back in 1995. It's so retrogressive, it's so backward, we don't expect that from the minister.
So there is a proposal to actually reduce the salary of doctors, is that what you're saying?
It's all very clear. Two persons consulting each other and letters being hastily given and approved within 2 days and saying, now this is the salary structure, it should be so. Well, the Public Service Commission approved how many persons should be trained in each particular year, up to 9,000 interns every year. We are yet to meet that threshold. The number that is in question right now is 3,500. It's a very small number of the projected numbers of
so
how many
the projected number of
is 9,000
are
interns.
Supposed to be trained every year is 9,000. Right,
this one number is 3,500, and it's what we are quarreling about. It's a very small matter, but someone is just making a big storm out of it because they don't want to. And maybe, we never know. Every year, because that is a continuous function, you cannot say you never did budgeting. You never had funds allocated. And if they were allocated, you probably misappropriated them, and now you're telling stories to have these persons wait for another cycle. Another cycle means another batch of 3,500, you have 7,000 of them coming out. So it's your own inefficiencies causing all these problems and hurdles in the system.
So just back to our question again, if we had agreed that we need to have 9,000 every year, why are we just doing 3,000? Why can't we do more than that?
Well, the schools have capacities of how many students they can admit and how many they can release. And because it's a very long program, again, persons every year do not qualify to get into these universities. We don't have that many universities. So there's been debate that the universities are churning out too many. Now, churning out too many and graduating too many students or doctors, it's somehow not very truthful because of the bigger shortage that we have. Every year we produce a max of 1,000. Some get attrition, they don't get into the profession. They probably don't. You finish your school, you go into other things. You don't even now get into the medical practice. So out about maybe a minimum of 1,000, continue to practice. So for us to reach that threshold of 55,000, that's about 55 years from today. So universities is releasing about 1,000 of doctors. Well, the extra numbers up to 9,000, they're the different cadres, the nurses, the clinical officers, maybe 200 dentists, about 1,000 pharmacists. So each of those cadres build up to that number of 9,000. So we still have a long way to go. So I don't know where we are as regards the ministry's functions, but it's like they don't care about the progression towards what they're selling to the Kenyans, which is UHC. So UHC will fail as long as we don't onboard doctors to provide that UHC.
Okay. Is there a little bit of being overstretched in your profession when you look at it and you say, you know, you're supposed to have this number of interns actually, you know, being posted. We don't get to see that because now from them being posted, that's when we can actually see them mid-transition into, you know, getting employment, full-time employment and all that, and deal with the ratio of maybe doctor to patient and something like that. Do we have an overstretch when it comes to doctors dealing with patients?
An overstretch. Like an overstretch, you're saying we have too many doctors?
No, we have few doctors and dealing with a lot of patients.
Yes, now that's the current situation. So the reasons we have long queues, the reasons we have persons gravitating towards private systems is because the public systems are not functional. It's been so strategically done to underfund, to under-equip, and to understaff the public hospitals because we want business for the other system. So when you cause a lot of issues on this side, patients by choice, they'll know I wake up today in the morning, I'll go and wait and suffer the whole afternoon or the whole morning, and I do not want to stay there. So I'll probably better off be going at a private facility. So when we advocate for doctors to be employed, it's for patients, Kenyans, to save their earnings and not to spend everything on the private side because the public system is working.
Okay.
Now, surgeries in the public sectors, they are well done. We have qualified, competent doctors. But because the system is so dilapidated or the way it is ordered, you have persons waiting for up to even 6 months to even a year to be operated upon. Because you probably have one surgeon. One surgeon probably seeing 100 patients that are booked in a book. And in a particular day, because cases sometimes take too long, you cannot see so many. Now when you call for put up more theaters, or probably hire a few more surgeons, then they don't want to do that. So it's a strategic design to make the system fail so that we keep on, either the persons working in that system keep on complaining, and patients are given the alternative of this works, just like the way it works in the private sector, in the health education sector, in the education sector. The primary schools, the secondary schools, in the public sector, and the academies, you've seen how the growth has happened. So it's the same way that is being projected. And now SHIF, the new act that has been designed, is also designed to take up on the same pathways. So we've struggled in a system that should function and that should be very, very efficient. But the focus is being taken away elsewhere because there's no priority in strengthening that system.
All right. Now, let me come to the issue to do with commitments because we've seen most of the time when, you know, KMPDU calls for strikes and, you know, the Ministry of Health says, now let's have a conversation. We always have this conversation, but on the latest, you know, I've seen a communique from from the KMPDU saying we've had so many communications and commitments from the government, but they are never implemented. Do you feel like you're being taken for a ride, especially with the government, in terms of, you know, can we speak, but at the end of the day, whatever we did agree on is not being implemented?
Well, that's what we say. The government has been on strike for the last 7 years. In 2017, from December 2016 to 2017 March, there was a long strike, 100 days, 3 months and a half. And we agreed that we would never ever go back to that. And we didn't aspire to do that, that everything subsequent to follow was to be smooth and well done. But now come 2020, we remind them, we had agreed something on 2017, that's supposed to implement fully the collective bargaining agreement. The government says, oh, we don't remember, so we took them to court. And the courts pronounced themselves, and we have a favorable judgment that they never fully implemented that old CBA. We demanded that, or we threatened that we could do a strike in 2022 December. But the government again told us, don't strike, come, let's talk. So the whole of 2023 has been spent talking. Every month we had meetings with all the multi-agency, the SRC, PSC, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Labor, all these persons, we've been meeting them for a whole year. And we have settled on a matrix to settle those issues. Now, that report is issued. We remind them, kindly fulfill whatever we had agreed. That you've agreed to do that.
Okay.
But 6 months down the line, you will forget that you agreed, and now you start doing other things. It becomes a little absurd now. And that's what we're saying now. We cannot really engage anymore in the way that they've been suggesting. And that's why we've called for that multinational, or not multinational, the whole of nation approach. And today we had a meeting, and they still never showed up. So it is them again who are in defiance of the court order, court ruling. The court said parties must meet soonest possible to avert the strike. But they're not meeting, and because they're not interested, we keep being told persons are out of the country. Now, if it was essential, if it was serious, it was serious as they claim that healthcare is essential, or very, whatever they claim, they should have been on the table. You cancel whatever you are doing, because even the doctors are stopping whatever they're doing to come and meet you, to have a final settlement of these issues, and never to ever repeat them again. So we don't take the matter seriously as we talk.
If they take you to court because they on claims that contempt of court, the court did suspend this particular strike, but you said we are soldiering on and continuing with it. What will be the next step?
Well, you see, we have demonstrated to court. Whatever the issue that we are actually being taken to court about is an issue of staffing standards.
Okay.
60 years later, we've never had. Persons have been earning salaries everywhere. Governments have been coming and going, but we don't have staffing standards. So how can you do that on the last minute? We are a nation that matters and that is concerned about the people's healthcare. But we don't have staffing standards. So whatever exists as a staffing standard is a skeleton of a law. So that skeleton of a law is what we are following. And we provided doctors to our understanding of what that means. But they come today and tell us we have a wish list of what a minimum staffing standard should be. Now, a wish list of levels of healthcare that have never even had those doctors. They start saying this level must have 20 as minimum. Now, it's so wishful thinking that you're suggesting a level 3 facility should have like 5 doctors when it has never even had even one. And you propose that as a minimum. So you cannot propose an absurdity. We don't even have a maximum and start saying these absurdities will now serve as a minimum. Does it mean that you hire to meet the minimum and satisfy the court's direction? Or what does it mean? So they bring more confusion by their own inefficiencies.
I'm running out of time, and I'd like to understand, with all these things not being implemented and every now and then something else coming up, does it not then pile up to some of the issues that you actually, you want raised, you want addressed rather, and by that then that means the government will get to a point where you have too many issues that need to be addressed, and they are unable to do that.
Well, governments are supposed to work for the people. That's why persons campaign and get elected to fulfill particular objectives. Now, if the government is failing or particular officers are failing the government, then those persons need to go home. Replace them with persons who are more visionary in delivering the aspect of right to healthcare to be achieved and enjoyed by all Kenyans. But so far, it seems like persons are bringing their own personal opinions, their own issues of not understanding labor law. I don't know how a full SRC commissioner can put their signature on a circular, unilaterally done, without consulting all the other stakeholders. That's an abuse of office, an abuse of position, because you're sitting there, you can misuse your signature on a piece of paper to give a directive on something. And you can do that under direction by a minister. these are independent offices, but it seems like the SRC is being commandeered by the CS Health. And that's why we're here today, to expose that kind of games that they're playing. Okay, let me come to some of the things you want to address. And I've seen that one of the biggest issues is, especially the one that came today, is the idea that 91% reduction. Mm-hmm. How practical is that? Well, it's not practical. That comes about, they were proposing about 50,000 of pay as of today, if they collect the letters 1st of April. That means take the 2.75% of SHIF, NSSF, or plus all other deductions that come in. That means the take home there will be like about 20-something, plus the tax payee. That means the take home will probably be about 20-something thousand. It's such an absurdity that the last time that amount was paid was probably in 1992. In the world of today, in the Kenyan position that we're living in, we cannot pay a doctor 27,000 shillings. That means these persons will probably end up charging the patient that they're seeing and collecting money and not doing ethical training. It is not what we want as doctors. What was the reasoning behind that? I don't know if you're privy to that. What would have been the reasoning behind that in proposing 91% reduction? Only so that we can get to accommodate more, or how? No, two persons met, and in their own night meetings, they agreed to reduce it that way. Why? No one understands. What evaluations have been done? No one understands. But it's a personal sentiment of interns are interns in the normal English language that we understand. Yeah. But these are junior doctors. The intern word is a misnomer because it's not really an intern of the regular type. It's a person who's finished school, graduating as a doctor, who's taken an oath. They just need a year of engagement and supervision to become like fully licensed to operate. But because now the term in English means someone who's probably doing like a 3-month or 3 weeks engagement, that term has gone into the leadership, and they're using that to persuade the treasury and persuade themselves and to meet by themselves without involving the main persons who are affected and push with it. Now again, to bring the slyness out, the CS has been meeting the interns in their own meetings. She calls some of them, picks a few, like 3 of them, and tells them, you're going to act like the representatives of these doctors, and we're going to negotiate with you and agree. Now, I don't know how she understands the law operates. These persons are represented by the union, and you cannot meet a handful or a few of them, purport that these are the leadership, this is the leadership of the interns, and let's agree to resolve this stalemate. So that is to some extent just going behind the union. That's slyness, playing a game of deceit that is not proper, and we've called her out for that. It's improper to engage junior doctors who don't know what machinery they're using to play their livelihoods and welfare. It's not legal at all. Okay. Because the CBA protects against all that. It's like the Bible. The Bible of what the doctors should do as regards their welfare. And if you're not following that Bible or that constitution of welfare, that means there's nothing we are going to agree upon. And you cannot review it like your own household affairs. Okay, I'm totally out of time, but this is the question that I'd like to pose to you, maybe as we finalize on this one. How far are we going to go on this one? And what will make the doctors say, okay, now it is time to say, let's have a conversation and go back to work? Well, it's very, very easy. 2017, we agreed. Just fulfill the agreement. As we had said, 30 days after finishing school, post these persons into the job groups that we had suggested and agreed and planned for. Because they're planners, they're economists in the government. They plan all these things. It's not like persons are sleeping on their jobs. But because persons want to find money out, that happens. So fulfill that old CBA. It's late and overdue. We need to have another CBA, even much better than that. So if the government officers have to keep on complaining, then they're complaining with their own parties. Because in the world of work, in the world of decent work, CBAs must be progressive to protect labor gains by the workers in all sectors, be it doctors, police, wherever, other than just the KDF. But the other sectors, there is that aspiration of growth in the world of work. 30 seconds. If you are not called for conversation and they don't give in to your demands, how long are we going to see this strike last? Well, I think it would last as long as the government wants to keep on playing deceit and games. Okay. So we can finish it really fast. There was some time when we had a strike that doctors were threatened that you're going to be sacked and we start employing others. If that comes to play, what happens then? Well, the doctors are ready to go for the full haul because they understand the sector. Even those persons who are going to get repressed probably by ourselves, they will still be exposed to the same issues that we've been talking about.
Right.
So it's not that it's going to be any better for them. So we want a better system that absorbs the few that exist. We are not that many. We are only like 6,000 in service and about 2,000. Those 2,000 cannot get in and fulfill the needs that the country needs. That UHC will not sail as long as you're not working with these doctors. It will never, never sail.
All right.
And the two must go hand in hand to get that vision that we want aspire as a country.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kahura Mundia David.
Karibu sana.
Kenya National Kenya Deputy rather, National Chairperson, Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentist Union, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Your niche, specialty, which one is it?
Myself, I'm a surgeon, facial surgeon.
Facial surgeon.
Yes. So that's what I do.
Thank you. So, where exactly?
Well, I'm based at Kenyatta and at Kitui County Hospital.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and making time for this conversation here on The Bottom Line tonight. We don't take your time for granted. And just we do hope that the government gets to have a sit down with you and, get to agree on some of the things that you want to address and so that patients don't continue being in agony in hospitals, right? All right, my name is Brian Amuai. That does it for us here on The Bottom Line KE. Thank you so much for your time and making time for this program tonight. Do have yourselves a lovely night. Let's do this again next Tuesday on another episode of The Bottom Line.